This is the Sourced Podcast, where cold mornings, screaming bull elk, and bent rods turn into legends told. Hosted by Nate Zielinski and brought to you by Jiffy Ice Fishing, we go beyond tags and trophies, into the grind, the heartbreak, and the moments that keep us coming back for more. If it bugles, if it bites, if it lives wild, it's Sourced. Lock in.
Welcome to the Sourced Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Zielinski. This podcast and every podcast officially brought to you by Jiffy Ice Fishing. We are so excited to be a part of Jiffy Ice Fishing. Going into this season, going to do a lot of ice camping with the base camp models by Jiffy, so we're excited about that. With that said, today is a very, very important day. The reason today is important, we talk fishing all the time. Let's just face it. We have fish in the water. We have all these crazy tactics. But the true concept to catch a fish, you have to have a hook. We are here talking to literally the ultimate in fish hook manufacturing, representing Eagle Claw right here in Denver, Colorado. We've got Matt Windholz. Matt, how you doing today?
Dude, I'm amazing. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk fishing with you.
Tell you what, I cannot wait to have this subject, because again, when we talk about it, right, we talk about baits and tactics and like literally every single thing to do with fishing. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the fish hook. The hook involved in hooking and landing fish is literally everything in concepts of the whole concept of fishing in reality. So we're here to talk to you about fish hooks and everything that goes into it. And again, like, a fish hook is a fish hook, right? But in reality, it's not. There is so much to them. And when I come in to like talk to you at the outlet store at Eagle Claw itself, right? Between Eagle Claw, Laser Sharp, Trokar, like there are so many hooks that have so many different specifics for a task. It is unbelievable. And I want to dig into it and I want to talk about all of it.
Yeah, no, when you say a fish hook is just a fish hook, you should see some of the reactions you get from people here. There's so much that goes involved with a fish hook. And again, like you said, there's so many different kinds out there. But the people that are involved with that process, man, there's 100 different people with the 100 different tasks that are involved. And that's just for one fish hook, right? Then you go across species, you go across different techniques. It's so crazy nowadays, the customizations and what you can do with fishing.
And more so what it's supposed to be involved with. So, guys, we're here to talk about it again. I'm Nate. This is Matt. Behind the scenes is Chris. He'll be jumping in. So we're going to talk about all that, right? It starts with metal, right? Oftentimes it starts with a wire, but nonetheless, we're going to figure it out. But we take metal, we form it into the shape of what we know as a fish hook, we make it sharp, and we try to catch fish with it. But that is the beginning. And then we go into everything that makes it what it is, right? We want a thick wire, a thick gauge. We want a thin. We want flexibility. We want non-flexibility. Obviously, the shape is everything. We're going to talk about it all. But to set the tone, I always want to set the tone at the beginning of the podcast. Roughly speaking, right? I know it can change, but how many fish hooks are made by Eagle Claw? So you take Eagle Claw, Laser Sharp, and Trokar. Am I missing any in there? Let's start with that.
No, those are the basic three.
Basic three within the fish hook category. How many fish hooks does Eagle Claw, as the brand with those three, make? A day, a week, a year? Give us some numbers.
So we try to hit a goal of 11 million a week. So we're looking
wait. Say it again. 11 million fish hooks a week. We didn't mess that up. That's like it's a one, a comma, zeros, another comma, more zeros. 11 million fish hooks a week.
That's rough. We want our goal again is 11 million a week, roughly 400, give or take 550, a million a year. It's stupid. But that's
awesome.
The demand.
Like that's the demand worldwide for fish hooks. Right?
It's a global brand.
It's a global brand. And I always want to start with that to set the tone. Because when we talk about all the things that we're going to talk about, clearly you're talking about a leader in the industry of making that many fish hooks. So obviously, there's a lot to it. And I think probably 100 times more to it than the average person, the average angler, average consumer would ever imagine that goes into it, and so many applications within it. So it is a big deal. We're going to talk about it, and that's what the tone of this podcast is. So to rewind, we're going into it. Matt, what's your role at Eagle Claw? And give us a little history of Eagle Claw. Obviously, I'm very partial to the brand, manufactured right here in my home state of Colorado. Obviously, I work with you guys, so I'm very biased, but I'm biased for a reason. I honestly had options to work with any fish hook company in the country. I have that availability. I chose Eagle Claw because of your versatility and what all you do. So it's an honor to work with you on that. But walk us through your role and give us a little history of Eagle Claw.
Yeah, no, first off, the honor is mine. I appreciate everything you do, Nate. But when it comes to what I do here, I do a lot of the e-commerce stuff. You know, I was a guy that worked in the store, retail store, that got moved up to the front office. We recently just got a new website a couple of years ago, and making sure everything we sell in the catalog, in the website, everything we sell B2B, we can also do D2C as well.
Excellent.
And that's it's been a great process, and we've shattered expectations, and it continues to grow. Not only do I do the e-commerce stuff, I do a lot of the pro staff as well. Okay. I mean, we obviously have done a great deal with you and some of the other local guys, but also world renowned. You know, we talk to guys in Nova Scotia catching bluefin tuna, Australia catching blue tuna as well, California to Florida to, you know, people catching Wells catfish in Spain. And it's crazy.
Absolutely.
Just the different species and, you know, different countries that are affected by fish hooks. And it is pretty cool to be a part of. And especially since, you know, again, global brand that's been around for a long time. I mean, last year we celebrated 100 years, and it all started because our founder back in the day, legend says, he saw an eagle pick up a fish, and that's where he got the idea from. So it was the claws of the eagle, which crafted the Eagle Claw fish hook. So it went on through the history of, Andrew D. McGill and Stan Wright forming together to create Eagle Claw, going through ups and downs, having hard times and good times, going through world wars, to where Madeline McGill took over, which was Andrew McGill's wife. And then again, generations kept going, and you still have Lee McGill as an owner. His son Drew McGill is the owner. So it's been 100 years of success, and we're looking for 100 years more.
That's where it's so cool. And, like flashback to the 100-year mark at ICAST this year. ICAST, right? Some people know what it is. ICAST, it is the largest, fishing retail show, going to marketing, things like that, in the world, right? So it's the biggest show for fishing by far. Everything cool in the industry is there. And with that being said, Eagle Claw literally probably did the best job I've ever seen. You had a wall in your booth walking you through the very first concept of what Eagle Claw is, all the way to what it is today. The heritage is deep. The concepts of what it is, the core values, is incredible. So again, I think it's important to say all that stuff in the beginning of this podcast just to set the tone, because it's a big deal of where you came from, where you are, and the advances you've made to hit your target of literally having a hook for everyone.
Yeah, no, and that's where we want to be. We want to meet anglers where they're at so we can help them get better, whether it's by making the proper hook selection, or there's recommendations on tackle. It's nonstop. Really, people think this is a job, but really it isn't. This is a passion, and I get to do something I love every day.
I love it. And you definitely, and we talk about that all the time, right? I love it because, I come in and I'm tired, I'm beat up, I've been on the water, and I'm complaining, and dude, you're just smiling. You're like, can you believe that we're here? We're so lucky to be here. And I'm like, man, I have a terrible attitude. I need to fix my attitude. So I love it, man. You keep it real and you keep me honest. So I love it. So, okay, as we dig into it, we talk Eagle Claw, Laser Sharp, Trokar, right? So we got three major brands within there. Walk us through, roughly speaking, what those are, right? What is Eagle Claw? What is Laser Sharp? What is Trokar? To kind of start there as we kind of dig into each one of these hooks as we kind of go.
Yeah. So, starting with the Eagle Claw name brand, you're looking at, whether you're a beginner or expert, you're looking at majority, 99% of fishing, people that go fishing, they're using these hooks, whether it's bait holders, it's Kales, some octopus, but a lot of them, it's easy way they're going to fish to eat, or the weekend warriors. But it's a traditional home value brand that's been around for a long time.
Long time.
As you move into laser sharp, you get into more of the crossroads of affordability and performance, right? So you want that upgrade from Eagle Claw to more specific, whether you're saltwater fishing, freshwater fishing, bass specific, walleye fishing. There's a lot of advantages from moving from Eagle Claw to laser sharp, but again, it's not for everyone.
Yep.
So that's always on people, but if you want to get better, right, we have those options, and that's where you get back to the last one, Trokar. That's your competitive advantage, right? If you want to win, you've got to use Trokar. Yep. It's the sharpest hook on the market. It's very specific for styles of fishing, and you're never. I mean, once that Trokar gets hooked, they ain't going nowhere.
Yep. I mean, it's literally insane how sharp those are. We're going to dig into all that. And I do have to say, right, within the brand, I mean, rods, reels, jigs, right? Eagle Claw is such a big brand. Today, you're going to hear us talking specifically about hooks, because that's really what we want to dig into on this concept. But, I think people need to know, behind you got jig heads and weighted hooks. Like, the list goes on and on. I mean, it is such a big brand that goes well past hooks. But again, I just wanted to throw that out there today. We're going to be talking about that, but you have literally something for everything, because we're going to need about a 9-hour podcast if we talked about all the stuff, the ice fishing brands and everything else with it. So a lot of crazy stuff within the industry. But as we talk about that again, laser sharp, Trokar, Eagle Claw, they all have kind of their style and technique. No matter what, if you are an angler, you have seen the brand at some point in time, right? You can't walk into a gas station without seeing an Eagle Claw hook, during the little, convenience section for fishing. So everything's out there. But within that, let's start getting into it a little bit deeper, right? A fish hook, right? How is that made, right? We're talking wire, bending it. How does it keep shape? Walk us through what a fish hook is, right? I think everybody sees a hook, right? Again, whether it's a bait holder, whether it's a treble, whether it's this shape, but I don't think people realize, like, what goes into a hook? How does it stay bent? How does it retain its, rigidity? I don't know. Just walk us through what is a hook as we start the concepts.
Yeah, no. So we'll get this giant spool of wire, right? And it's sourced in the States. So a lot of times our wire comes from Pennsylvania. We use American steel to make American hooks. So one of the big things as we get that wire, we put it on these machines, and these machines have been working nonstop for the past 60, 70 years. And we put them on the machines, it does all the bends. So whether it's a bait holder, it's a circle hook, whatever the hook is, we have these different parts on the machines where it'll move it, form it, and then it'll crank it out. It'll cut it, it'll add the eye, add the splices, add the points. It's a nonstop process, and that's where you're cooking out as much as possible. But it's really important for those guys back there to be on top of things, so we don't have quality control issues, the hooks correctly. But that's just one part of it for one hook machine operator. We finish the hook, as it gets done with the hook machine, we move on to a heat treat process. Basically, you're forging steel, right?
Okay.
You're putting it into a big furnace. It's tempering it. We're forging it, making it stronger. And as it continues out of the forging process, it goes to a wash process, and then it goes to plating. So whether it's bronze, gold, nickel, platinum black, red, there's all these different platings that we can also put on the hook to benefit, whether it's Seaguard, water resistant, saltwater resistant, whether it's bronze, standard, across basically all fish hooks. And then you get into the kind of the more specialties, reds and platinum blacks, and benefits from it. There are sometimes it's preference based, but we give people options, right? You don't just want one style hook, you want 10 different styles of the same hook, so you never know what people are using for them or what they're catching with. But again, that process keeps going. It gets plated, and we go through another bunch of chemical bass process, proprietary stuff. But there's so many different steps involved when it comes to creating a fish hook. It's unreal.
It is unreal. That's, again, where people just don't realize it, right? And then, more importantly, for the angler, it's like a hook is a hook. And when you dig into it, it's just crazy. And, what made me really want to bring this on, I have a niece, right? So she's maybe 17 years old, and she fished as a kid and didn't fish a lot, since a little kid, and now she's like really getting after it, right? Fishing with her friends, and she's digging into it, and she's asking all of those questions, just like, hey, I want to do this, what do I need? And, so I will bypass some of the small things, just assuming she knows or not digging into it enough, talking to her level of an angler, and then she'll show me the rig, and I'm like, that is not the right hook. And she's like, why not? And I'm like, because it's not. You know what I mean? And then, like, I try to explain it, and I'm like, man, like, I naturally do all these things, and I'm like, there's a lot to it. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, hey, like she was using some dough bait. So I was like, hey, you want this for this? You want this for this? You want this for this? And she's like, I just want a hook. And I'm like, no, it's not like that. But it just makes you realize there's so much to it. And again, like, people just don't know, whether it's you use what you were taught or you use what's available, your retailer, or, wherever you get your hook, if that's what you have. But when you actually truly get into it, like, there is a specific thing for everything. And they all perform differently. I mean, how they hold a bait, how much they weigh, the heaviness gauge of the wire. That's probably one of the biggest things that I think the average person doesn't look at, right? Like, you're missing a lot of bites. Hey, maybe your wire is too big and it's not penetrating the jaw. Maybe it's not sharp enough, whatever. There's so much to it. And then, I mean, all the way down to like hookup rate. Hey, I keep hooking a fish and I keep losing it. Like, what is that? And they're blaming themselves, blaming the rod, when it could come down to the hook, right? You know what I mean? So there is just so much to it. So I think as we continue this conversation, it's just so good to like open your brain to all the things that we're saying, and think about it, and then put it in your situation of like, hey, am I oversizing, undersizing, too heavy, too light? What's my wire? What's my flex? All of that type thing, because it all comes into play at the end of the day when it comes down to catching fish. So I think there's so much to it. So as we continue, one of the biggest things I think that I want to talk about first, what is like the most sold hook? Like, what's the most common hook in America?
It's got to be a bait holder.
Okay.
You talked about people recognizing Eagle Claw, and 9 times out of 10, when someone would open the tackle box, you would see Paul Mount with his stringer of fish and the Snell package, right?
100%.
That's been the number one selling hook for the longest time.
Yeah.
It's the 139H-6. It's our number one selling product by far. But that hook in general, right, the bait holder, whether you're going with grandma, grandpa, or your parents with a can of worms, or, going down the creeks and ponds and you're bait fishing underneath a bobber. I mean, those are the memories that all got us hooked and started. And, I would say bait holder, but then you got people arguing about Aberdeens, 202s, right? So there's that definitely Eagle Claw, and again, that's our go-to customer is those guys that want to go lounge and have fun, and that's what fishing should be.
I agree 100%. That's what I assumed we would say, talking about the bait holder, because again, I think that's the general angler, catches everything, does everything, and it gets the job done more times than not. So I think that's an important one to kind of think about. But as we continue from there, right, that's the number one sold. In your opinion, this is more personal, what is the maybe creative, or what's the most maybe advanced, like what hook does Eagle Claw, Trokar, Laser Sharp make that owns the market? Like, what's the most important one to you? Like, what's the one that's like, we dominate because of this?
I think it's very underrated, and we actually purchased the hook back in the late 80s. It's the Kale hook.
Yep. And
it's that cross between a J hook and a circle. And, whether you're active on the rod or you're passive on the rod, but the main point is, people feel a bite. All they want to do is two-step them back and see them go flying. But I think that Kale hook has been, a lot of people use it, especially in catfishing, saltwater. And I think that is very underrated. In my opinion, I think that's probably the number one underrated, most selling hook.
Yep.
I kind of forgot the question there, but I think that Kale hook is the best one for sure.
No, I like it. I mean, I think that there's also concepts of the Trokar world, right? When you come to like a tuna hook, maybe a tarpon hook, like there's really nobody on the market making a hook of that wire gauge, that thickness, or whatever you want to call it, that has the sharpness that you guys offer. Yeah. So I think that's another one that's just like in a world of its own, where it's like there's not a lot of other options out there that have this capability.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about some of those Lancet offset, the TK3, TK4 more aggressive circle hooks, and then you get into your 619s, those heavier wire, like you said, tuna, and it's just to see that point, a Trokar point in a 12-aught circle hook. Yep. I mean, it's scary almost. But you're like, that's the hooks I want to be using.
I mean, I agree 100%. That's exactly it. You're like, that thing looks dangerous. Like that. If I'm going to hook a fish, that's what I want on there for sure.
Poor fish.
Yeah, nope. I love it. I love it. That's a great concept there. So, okay, as we kind of talk about this, I'm going to start just rattling off a couple of questions that I have, not necessarily about hooks, then we'll kind of tie it back into hooks. But within the category, I want you to walk me through gauge, wire gauge, because this, again, is probably average fish. Maybe people don't think about it enough. You go lake trout fishing, right? It's a freshwater big trout. It's a limited market, right? Other people listening to this, maybe 5% will ever even know what a lake trout is. But when you're vertical jigging a lake or in deep water, literally my success rate of hookups and landed fish from a thin wired hook to a thicker wired hook, it's like 90% difference. If I use a thinner, sharp wired hook, I hook and land everything. If I go with a really thick gauge hook, I pin them for a second, and a lot of times I lose those fish. So, like, that's an example that it really opened my eyes, but now I take it everywhere. So it's pretty unbelievable. I would like you to walk us through, like, the gauge of a wire, the metal of a hook. How many options are there? What's available? And what's your take on that?
Yeah, so obviously, I wish fish hooks were universal among all companies, but obviously it's not. But when it comes to strength or wire diameter of a hook, we have a standard is extra light, light, medium, which is a standard, and then you got heavy. You also have an extra heavy, right, for, again, tuna, sharks, and those big game predators, big game success rates there. But when you talk about penetration, the lighter you can get away with, the better penetration you're going to get. And that's where I think people get this misunderstanding with, it's light wire, it's going to bend out. But what you want is that penetration. And this goes in hand with also what bait you use. Lighter wire, the bait's not going to be hurt as much. So, you're going to get fresher bites, fresher baits. They're not dying as quickly. I mean, that could be a podcast in and on itself.
Oh, absolutely.
But as you keep going, and then again, there's that confusion with 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, all that. That again is to the strength of wire, which is a standard for some people, but for us, not necessarily standard. It's kind of different per brand. But then you go, the higher the X, the stronger the hooks will be. And then, we have some 6X treble hooks, standard usually across the board, 3X, a medium wire. But that thin diameter, I agree with you 100%. That thinner diameter, you're going to have a better penetration. And again, when you're vertically jigging on Lakers, when you're 80, 100 feet down, you want that hook to penetrate past the barb as quickly as possible. And I think that's where people struggle with. They want that big gauge, thinking that they need that big gauge on a bonier fish mouth, but sometimes that's not actually true.
I mean, I agree. It's super easy to miss that opportunity because, again, you're like, oh, I need big. But, yeah, if the amount of energy, and it can be broken down very scientifically to, like, literally foot-pounds of pressure that it takes to penetrate that thinner wired hook to that thicker wired hook on the average rod, average line. It's insane how easier it is to penetrate on those thinner wires.
I was actually going to ask that same question. I was going to say, how do you test that?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's a way, and I'm sure hey, at this poundage, the wire is going to bend. But at this, it's going to make it through a fish's hard, bony mouth. Like, the only thing I could think of is like taking a watermelon rind, trying to jerk a hook through it and seeing how easy it penetrates or bends. But what do you guys do? Maybe that's unique.
So we have a whole team. I shouldn't say a whole team. We have a couple guys that work in the back that do our testing. I don't know if you heard of the name Seven to Win or Walk to Win, fishing 24/7. He actually works here and he's part of that team, so he does a lot of our testing. But it's all pull machine based. It's all chemical testing. They do a lot of that stuff back in the back with the hook machines. Those guys are connected. They're always trying to figure out flaws, or if we get flaws, figuring out ways to prevent them. We got engineers, a group of engineers that are always trying to make stuff better and more efficient. So, I mean, for actual specifics, I can't give away all the details, but they definitely do that type of pull test. I mean, you've seen the old school classic ones where they take a piece of leather and then they hook the piece of leather. So, I mean, the old, I don't know if you're familiar with Captain Rick Murphy, but he has the solo cup, and then how the circle hook goes over the side and how it catches. Those are just small examples. But as for testing, I can't give you all the details.
That's fair. We'll give you the pass on that one. But yeah, I'm sure plenty goes into it, right? You could easily quantify size of a wire to, what particular fish somebody's fishing for, and know pretty well that that hook is going to make it through a mouth before bending. But all right, I'll let you guys take it back.
No, I love it, and because it's important. I mean, it exactly, and you hit the nail on the head where it is a balance, right? I want the thinnest diameter I can get without blowing out on the certain size fish that I'm targeting. So it's just that nice thin balance. And I mean, a lot comes into it. This is a question for later on, but like I have a current walleye bite right now that we're at elevation, right? So we're in the Rockies, we're high elevation, right? Not all jerk baits are created equal. We were just talking to a guy talked about jerk baits, over at Berkeley. But like when you talk about suspending or floating baits, things like that, right? Your hook weight. So all the wire in a treble on a jerkbait, you can make a jerkbait slightly sink, suspend, or slightly float depending on that. And it's a fine balance because like right now I'm running very thin wired trebles on my jerkbaits to get the right action. But boy, you got to be careful on, you get a little too excited and you get that big Johnny Bass hook set and you blow them out on a walleye and a long cast on a heavy rod. So there's just so much into that diameter. It's a fine balance and relationship and knowing what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you talked about it last time we did a walleye kind of series, and there's time and place for everything, and figuring that out is part of the game. Right? You can't substitute time on the water, but it takes a lot of patience, perseverance, and that's why we go to you guys. The subject matter experts that do it every day. Because without your information, we obviously have our own roles and our own jobs and own lifestyles, but people that do it every day is the information we want.
That's it. Okay, so wire, we know our take on that. Now, flexibility, and I'm not talking yoga. I want to talk about flexibility because there's two concepts. You obviously have a gauge wire, a thickness of metal on the hook. The thinner it gets, you're obviously going to get flexibility due to the thickness of that wire. But how you treat the hook afterwards. Again, I know we can't talk too much about it, but however it's treated afterwards has a big part of that flexibility as well. And I was trying to say rigidity earlier and I couldn't say the word, but like there's a lot to that concept. I like a hook that has some flex, right? When you come to a big fish that's going to throw its head around, that's going to do all the things that big fish do, if I have a very solid hook, there's times where I'll miss opportunity on a fish. I want to have a little flex. So walk us through that concept of a fish hook. And again, this is all striving towards the knowledge base. If a consumer is buying a hook and they're coming to like your store and they're like, oh man, I'm going to actually dig into hooks one step further. We gave them the information about the thinner wire, producing better hook sets, finding the balance. What's the flexibility range? What do we talk about there? And is that a consideration? Do you put flex? Do you eliminate flex? Or is it all due to the wire?
I think it's very technique specific when you're talking about flexing. The guys that are flipping, pitching, close combat, they don't want flex. They're pulling that fish out of the brush as quickly as possible. But then you get into, some of the old school 202 Aberdeen hooks and some of the worm hooks, light wire worm hooks, any of your whatever species specific you're looking for. I think it is important, again, to find that balance of what works for you, what we can recommend for you as well. Flexing, I don't really personally have an issue with flexing hooks, but it's one of the first things I'm checking when I grab a hook. I'm seeing what the point's like, I'm seeing the attributes of the hook, and I'm seeing what I can do to use it and how I can use it to catch bigger and better fish.
I like that. I mean, for me, big fish, right? I do a lot of shark fishing. I do a lot of sturgeon.
Yeah.
I do a lot of tarpon. Those three, I tend to not want flex, right? But I mean, half of that comes with like the dang hook's as big as my hand, right? So like, I don't expect it to flex. But you break it down to walleye, like it's one of the first things I want. I want flex out of my walleye hooks, right? Like when I got a 30-inch walleye, it's barely hooked on the edge, right? It's paper thin of a lip. Like if I run too stiff of a hook on half my walleye, I will lose those fish. Same as some of the trout that I'm targeting, right? I'll lose the fish if I don't have flex. So I think there's a time and a place for it, but I just love to have that concept because again, when we talk about taking anglers to the next level, to go to the next point of success, that's where these concepts don't come up in those initial conversations. But like once you get to the point where you're getting dangerous with knowledge, you're catching some fish, these are the things that will take you to the next level. Again, the diameter, the flexibility. So I think it's one of those things that if you ask the average angler, you saw him at the boat, like, hey man, what kind of flex is in your hook? They're going to be like, what? But I would love it to where they're like, oh, man, my walleye, my jerkbait rods, I'm running a little bit lighter wire. Hey, on my light bait rigs, my revolve hook, I'm running the heavier wire, so I get more twist out of it. Like, I just want it in people's heads, so when they're thinking about this stuff, they're like, huh, that's a good idea. I should look into that a little more. So that's kind of the focus there.
Yeah, I like how you want to get people thinking about what they're doing and then see if they can find a better way to do it. And we're not forcing people to change their minds. We want to prove it to them that, there might be a better option. And that's, Eric Ali, the marketing manager here, does a great job doing that with Trokar. I mean, you guys are subject matter experts. They do it as well because we're getting constant feedback. But having those little things in people's minds is how you get better. Those slight adjustments, those small variables. I mean, there's so many variables in fishing already, just to simplify things. We don't need to overcomplicate it, but we have a tendency sometimes to spin out of control, when we have all these different things going on.
Oh, for sure.
But it's definitely the simpler you can get it, the better you'll be.
I love that. And it's very much the truth. Okay, so we talked diameter, we talked flex. I want to talk shape in a second, but that's going to be such an open question there. I want to talk about sharpness, right? So,
Yes.
What is a sharp hook? Like, how do you test that? How do you know? So, okay, here's the deal, right? Doug Stange, Doug. He's an in-fisherman guy, right? Like everybody has the guys they look up to. Doug was like my generation, right? So I write articles with him. I filmed a ton of TV shows with him. He is a sharp hook guy. Like he is a guy that likes sharp hooks, right? So we'll be out fishing. We'll fish a little while. He's like, man, check that hook. I'm like, what? And I'm going to tell you right now, like, you're going to hate me. I'm not a good Eagle Claw representation because, like, I don't ever check my hooks. Like, that's just not something I do. I'm not a change out. Like, my hook's got to be dull before I notice, but it's just who I am. So, but, like, he is constantly changing, sharpening, got a file in his pocket. Like, he is a guy that works on that. Jared Edwards, used to film a ton of TV with him. Same thing. Every 3 casts, every fish, checking his hook. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I got to check my hook, make sure it's sharp. I'm like, you took 3 casts. How's it dull? But, like, it doesn't. I had a great buddy of mine, Kavaias, this year. We were fishing trout up here, and after I lost, like, 4 fish, he's like, Nate, you're killing me. He goes, after you lost that second fish, it literally hurt my head when you cast it again, didn't check your hook. And I'm like, what? He goes, use my rod, and I'll tie a new bait on your hook. Like, he was that upset about it. And I was like, yeah, it is pretty dull. I mean, like, you couldn't have hooked yourself. It was so dull. And I was like, I should probably set the hook a little harder. But it is what it is. So, what is a sharp hook? How does somebody know if their hooks are sharp? Like, what's the point? Like, how do you test it? How do you know?
So, the trick that I was taught, you take a fish hook and you put it upside down on your fingernail.
Okay.
If that hook doesn't move when you push it against your fingernail, it is sharp.
Okay.
If it moves, it's dull. That's where you get the hook cone out. That's where you start manipulating a little bit. But again, yeah, if you start missing fish immediately and you're not catching your gear, there's some things you need to think about.
Okay. You know, like I run my baits on bottom, like, right? I mean, hitting rocks, that's not bad for them. So,
No, not at all.
okay, you said hook hone. I don't know what that is, nor do I have one. Walk me through if somebody, like, I'm going to throw it out. I'm going to come to your store. I'm going to get a new fish hook. I'm going to put it on, and I'm going to go from there. But if somebody's going to sharpen their hooks, walk me through how we do that. What you need a hone? It's a file. Like, walk me through this thing.
You just said it right there.
It's a very foreign device.
Well, it's an accessory that not a lot of people know that we have.
Yeah.
Not only sell, but that you can use to help better your gear. And basically, hook hone is a file to where there's sometimes grooves in it or different textures to where when you're running that tip of the hook, you're getting out nicks and you're just redefining the sharpness of the hook. And you might wear and tear some of the plating on it, which later can cause other stuff. But point is, one moment that could be the biggest fish of your life.
I mean, that's how Doug and Jarrett both used to present it to me. They were like, "Hey, man, you never know when that one bite, right? You just missed another 17-inch walleye. Who cares?" But if it was that fish of a lifetime, you would be mad that hook wasn't sharp. So I do agree with that. Chris, do you have a hook hone in your boat?
I do not. I do not ever sharpen my hooks. I'm much like you.
Perfect.
I was just actually pulling up a hook hone right now, so I'll bring it up so everybody knows what they look like.
I used to have one in my tournament days. I had one in the boat. I never used it once in my life, but I had one in my boat. So at least I felt like I was like on par to trying to do something productive. But no, I definitely do not have one, nor do I know how to use one.
We're getting a quick glimpse at one right now. It looks like a really standard one. It's got a single slot groove right down the middle, and it looks like maybe a lanyard hole on it. But this is one that Eagle Claw makes here.
All right, let's check it out. Let's see the hook hone.
Yeah, that is the hook hone. Yeah, it's an interesting. It's like a stone. That's all it is. And
it's a grinding stone. Yeah, exactly.
It's $3. We should have one.
We should probably have one.
Well, all it takes is a couple seconds, right? And then you can take that hook off, retie, put another one on. But I mean, if you really want to take advantage of your gear and maximize every opportunity, there's those little things that you can do to increase that ratio.
I love it. And it's an important thing. And I tell you what, as much as I'm laughing out loud, you should take from our concepts and our life, and you should do as we say and not as we do. And everybody should have sharper hooks. But again, I think the sharpness factor is a major play at it. Now, with that said, as we talk about a sharp hook, Trokar, right? We're going to take you to the top brand within the realm of all the hooks manufactured by Eagle Claw. Trokar has a very, very unique hook point. Walk us through what a Trokar hook is and what makes it so unique.
So Trokar is a surgical cutting tool. So it's a real instrument they use in the medical field. We took it and implemented it into fishing as a 3-siding triangle cutting point so we could get 50% better penetration than any other hook out there.
50%?
Up to 50% better penetration. Okay. And there's you can look on the back of packaging, especially older packaging, you can see the comparisons. But when you look at that point, it is nasty. It's going to do some work.
I mean, that's it. And you're basically, I obviously, I don't know the industry well enough in this department, but I mean, you guys, that was your technology, the first one out there, and there's really nothing else out there that has that true concept behind it. And it is absolutely unbelievable at how effective it is with the penetration concept especially on those bigger fish and on those harder jaw points.
Yeah. It's funny. We get complaints that Trokar's too sharp, and it's a funny thing that we never thought we as a fish hook company that our fish hooks were too sharp. But there are again places for it, especially when you're talking about bony fish mouth, tarpon, lake trout, sharks, tuna, all the good ones. You got to be able to penetrate, and you got to be able to make sure you have gear you can rely on.
No, I love it, and it's a very, very big deal. So when you are making as we wrap up this little portion of it, as you're making a decision on hook, I mean, literally, the first thing is shape, and we're going to talk about that next because that's the biggest topic. But I mean, we're looking at the wire diameter, making sure that wire diameter is appropriate for what you're looking for, right? Great penetration, a little bit of flex, but obviously not blowing out and capable of handling whatever your target species is. And then obviously the other kind of concepts, we obviously want an overall sharp impact. So you definitely want to make sure it's sharp. So we think about all of those things. We compile it into one to make the decision on what's best for us and our fish catching that day. Now comes shape. Now, shape is honestly the first thing I go for. Then I look at the thickness of the wire. Then I look at the sharp factor. Then I look at color. But shape is everything. So as we talk shape of a fish hook, I would love for you to take some time right now. Again, we don't have to hurry, but walk us through shapes of these hooks and generally speaking, like what they're for. On the top 10 shapes of hooks. Walk us through a breakdown of what the angling community across the country can find in those shapes.
I'm going to pause this right here. I apologize. Your video is frozen on our end. Give me 1 second. Do you see that on yours, Nate?
He's frozen on my end.
Yep, that's what I thought. Okay, hang on.
I did have an internet connection thing pop up, but I think we're good now.
I talked through it, so we zoomed in on me, so we're good.
Perfect.
You're good now. So.
All right, so we'll just take it right back from where we were.
Yep.
Let me
shape.
Yeah, shape of the hook.
I'm
that kind of
warm
thing.
for your form.
You can sort of repeat your question so that he knows exactly what we're talking about, and then I'll just cut it into your original ask. Okay. His video good? Will you wave really quick? Just make sure. Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah, we're good. All right. Cool. Go ahead.
All right, the big question, shape. All the categories of shape, right? I don't even know. We didn't ask this. How many SKUs are there? Eagle Claw, Laser Sharp, Trokar. Like, how many shape sizes? Is that a loaded question? There's like thousands.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, and this is across all terminal tackle.
I mean, it's only 11 million hooks, right? You should know this stuff. A week.
A week. But yeah, I mean, we got roughly 7,000 items on our website. So you break it down to hooks, it's probably half. So you're looking at between 3,000, 4,000 different hooks between different shapes, sizes, and colors.
So this will be a breeze. This is super easy. Just break us down for us. Okay.
Like in the candy store, of course it's a breeze.
Shape. I want to talk about that. That's the concept right now. We don't have to dig crazy deep, but I also want enough to where people know it, right? So, let's walk through a shape and a general consensus of what they would use that for, right? Because this is what I was going through with my niece, right? They were throwing a weightless Cinco type bait, a weightless plastic. And they're like, what hook do I want for this? And then they're like, oh, but I want to use dough bait for trout. And they're like, can I use the same hook? And then they were like, oh, hey, we want to do this. And I'm like, no. And for a novice, they were just like, why? And I'm like, because you can't, But again, it's a long conversation to explain that. So of the SKUs, 5, 10, 15 of them, whatever, walk us through a shape or style of hook, and then generally speaking, where people are using that for. Because I think that's a big concept of starting to create more success.
Yeah, absolutely. With the years and the advances with technology, you've seen more and more different shapes than ever before. Whereas, back in the day, we only had a couple, plain shank, J hook, as is referred to, the all-around purpose bait hook, which was the standard forever. You talk to these tarpon guys that were fishing late 50s, 60s, 70s, and then they got the introduction of the circle hooks. They all thought it was crazy. Like, no, I'll never use that. And again, a circle hook, just like I says, circles, point 90 degree back to the shank. They're all different kinds of shapes. You got plain shank, we just talked about, the circle hook we just talked about. You got the kale hook, which is a cross between the J and a circle. Again, that one could be for bigger baits. It could be for being more active or being passive on the rod.
So like circle hook, for example, just before we get too far away from that one, generally speaking, we're running it for bait. Very rarely are running a circle hook outside of a bait, right? So it doesn't matter. It could be live bait. We could be pulling mullet on the surface surface and having tarpon hit it. We could be running dead bait for a catfish. We could be running bait for whatever. But the concept of a circle, the fish eats it, intakes it very, into their mouth, if not, like a digestion rate. They turn to swim away. It does not poke stomach lining. It doesn't do anything to the fish until it hits the corner of the mouth. The corner of the mouth is the fish swimming away. It pins them. They're hooked. They're good to go. So circle hook is generally used by consumers using some sort of bait, live or dead, no hook set involved, steady pressure, the fish is pinned. The nicest thing about a circle hook, there is slight availability to miss the fish, right? It could pop out of the fish's mouth without getting stuck. There's a possibility. The biggest pro of it, if you get them stuck, the odds of a fish spitting a circle hook is extremely rare. Once you pin them on a circle, by golly, you got them more than likely. So we love the circle hook for that aspect. Also, the conservation side, probably the safest hook used across America for the true concepts of overall conservation of catch and release of fish.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about mortality rates in the 95 percentile, if not higher, when that circle hook is in the corner of the mouth. The way it's designed, like you talked about, that fish tries to run away, that fish hook is doing all the work for you. As long as you have a constant pressure, you're not jacking them, you're not setting the hook on them, that fish is setting the hook on itself. And that's where, other variables come into play, whether you're using line and type of rods. But when you're using live bait, cut bait, dead bait, whatever bait you're using on a circle hook, that circle hook is working for you.
Yeah.
I just brought up the cat claw. Let's see, it's called the kale hook. Cat claw kale hook. So everybody can see it right now. It's kind of, you're right. It's a variation of a circle hook and a few other that you've seen that have maybe a little bit of a stronger point on them.
Well, that's the next one I'm talking about. So on the kale hook, when is that used? What's the application most common? Like, what could somebody listen to this podcast and be like, I need that? Where are we using the kale hook?
Yeah, you see it a lot in freshwater with catfish guys using big bait. Whether it's, again, live, cut bait, dead bait. That aggressive bend allows you to put a bigger bait on. Again, you want to match your bait to the target species. Also match your hook size to the correct baits. But that, again, you could be either or, passive or aggressive with the rod. And it'll work. You can see it in the saltwater game when they're, popping shrimp with corks and catching reds and speckled trout. Again, whether you're actively holding the rod or it's down and you're in a rod holder, that kale hook is and again, some of these northern guys, they call it K-Lee.
I love it.
Just to clarify. But again, that was a type of hook that, was shown to us and we really liked it and we bought it, and then it's been a staple ever since. And again, it's a very underrated hook that I don't think a lot of people use as much. Then they could benefit them in a lot of ways.
I don't use one, but I am definitely going to call it the Kaylee hook. So I'm going to use one so I can call it the Kaylee hook because I like that. That's fun.
We make up to a 10-aught, and it's called the King Kaylee hook.
There we go.
You should see some of these guys when they go to make orders. I'm like, dude, I can't understand you, but I understood what you said.
I love it. That's fantastic. All right, so that was the Kaylee. What's another one? Keep on walking us through. What's next on the hook set? Walk us through an octopus. I want to know. Let's just jump in there. In my opinion, that's like the best hook in the world. I don't think that there's any hook that we should use all the time. But in the event that we have one hook, we had to pick one, I would take an octopus over all else. So walk us through an octopus.
So it's your standard J hook with a couple different variations. You got the offset.
And a J hook, you just mean like a J.
Correct. Yeah, just how I mean. J hook, J.
Yep. Okay.
Plain shank. There's a lot of different terms used for that, but the J of a hook, but it has the offset. So the point of the hook is not in line with the shank. And then also another feature is your eyes. Your eyes are usually always bent up, and then a lot of times used for snelling. I know people always make their own rigs out of them. I think it's probably the most universal hook across all species.
Yep.
Again, probably very bait specific, live bait, dead bait, cat bait. But there's a lot of versatility with an octopus hook, and It doesn't look like an octopus, but there are features that are similar.
I mean, that's it. And I get the key things is eyelet up and offset shank. Those are going to be the two things that I think make the octopus hook. And like you said, I mean, I think that there's a very specific hook for all concepts. But at the end of the day, if I could pick one, I could catch pretty much everything in North America on an octopus hook if I had to. What size octopuses do you make? What's small? What's big?
Oh, man, we go down to a 12 size octopus, and then we go all the way up to, 9s and 10 odds. So we have a wide range, and we hate saying this, but we have everything to catch sharks, and we have everything to catch minnows, and anything in between.
I mean, that's it, exactly. So I get my day-to-day roll. I mean, I'm running a size 8, 6, and 4 for walleye on my octopus, maybe a 2 if I'm running big live bait. I hate to say it, my go-to is an 8, which is absolutely tiny for walleye. But when I put an 8 in a crawler, 8 in a leech, you don't see my hook at all. It disappears. I catch more fish. When I hook a 30-inch walleye, I'm a little nervous. I get a little panicked, but I feel like I get more hookup rates because of that small hook. So again, octopus hook is that's it for me. I use an octopus hook for a lot of bait stuff with trout. Right, a lot of my bait stuff for trout, I'm running octopus simply for the fact that a lot of the bait holders don't have quite as offset. I get a better hookup rate with that octopus hook with the offset shank, so I do really well with that. My sturgeon hook is a 7/0 octopus, right? So when we're talking about 12-foot sturgeon, I'm running that same octopus hook. So I run an octopus in a lot of scenarios, and we catch a lot of fish with them. So again, definitely probably the most versatile. But that, again, I think that I wanted to spend a little time on that, talking about the octopus. What's next? Walk us out other hooks.
You have crossbreeds of, more combinations of hooks, octopus circles, you have circle bait holders. There's definitely a hook for everybody in any situation that we can do. And you're starting with the basics.
Walk us through a worm hook. I want to know about a worm hook. And everybody knows, right? Now. Some people are listening to this and they assume that I'm like maybe even a little educated on bass. And they're wrong, right? So I fish bass like once a year when I have to compete in a tournament. I've coached some high school teams, but at the end of the day, I am not a bass angler. Walk me through like a worm hook for bass.
Yeah, a standard worm hook is a round bend, and this is where, again, the terms can get confusing because they would sometimes consider that offset. Okay. So you have a leg that goes down to where when you nose hook that worm, slide it up the shank, twist it, and then expose it. And again, you're hiding that hook in the bait so the fish doesn't see it. Whether they can see it or not, that's science. But you want to make sure it's natural as possible, and that the way to design of a round bend worm hook, even the EWG extra wide gap, there's a lot of benefits to adding baits, the gap size, the points, where the point sits, the eye, where the leg sits. It's a lot of different variables, and it might seem overcomplicated, but the worm hook, again, it's just designed for a worm bait, 4, 5, 6 inches, 4 inch. Yep. I mean, some of these guys are throwing 10, 12, 20 inch worm baits. I was
gonna say big worms.
The old man 12-inch baits, and then you got Japanese JDM 20-inch worms. It's just, and then now we got Quakies and fuzzballs. It's crazy. But to not get off track, the worm hook, again, if you're not talking about a bait holder or any of these other bait, live bait, cut bait, dead bait hooks, you go into bass fishing technique specific, that worm hook is probably, again, one of our most made hooks. Okay. We have a machine dedicated just to make worm hooks for Walmart, and that's all it does. It's cranking out. Yeah, that's all it does, and that's because you go to Walmart and you see the hook section, you're going to see U-Haul hooks.
That's crazy. That again, and I know people are hearing that and are probably like, "What's the deal with that?" But like dedication of any machine to that one thing, that's a very big deal when the big time manufacturing world exists. So that's absolutely crazy. All right, walk us through a revolve. I want you to walk everybody through. Describe the hook very, very verbally to try to understand this. We can pull up a picture, but I would rather you try to describe it first before we show everybody the picture of a revolve hook and what it does.
So the revolve, there's another company out there that makes a similar hook, but the revolve is our slow death hook.
Yep.
It's a rotating worm hook. Again, when you put either a half crawler or full crawler, when you're laying it behind the boat, you're going to see that do the big circles. And I think you talk about a lot in your seminars. That different tail section, you get the different
rotations.
Rotation. Yep. Different diameters of rotation.
Yep.
But again, I think ours has a splice on the shank, so it again acts as a bait holder, so you can keep that bait securely on the hook. But what it does is you're trolling that behind, and you're just letting that spin. So when that fish sees it, they can't help themselves.
I mean, that's just it. So you're taking a hook designed to hold live bait, and the second you add a bend, so you're taking like a long Aberdeen hook, adding a very aggressive bend into it, so as it goes through the water, it has a rotation. Again, if you have your crawler straight on the shank of the hook, it's going to be a tight rotation. You do your crawler coming off the bend, it's going to be a big rotation. Long story short, you take live bait, natural bait, you add action to it. It is absolutely lethal, right? So it is a dynamite hook. With that, how many options of a revolve hook are there within the lineup?
Yeah, we have laser sharp, the needle point laser sharp, in a couple different sizes. I think they go from size 4 all the way down to 1/0. I think a lot of people too don't realize that we have them in a lighter wire.
So that's what I was getting at. I was just hoping you'd say it without me having to pull it out of you. So you offer 2 options of a lighter wired of that hook, and it's pretty unbelievable. So in my opinion, right, there's no doubt, right? A good friend of mine, Cavias, was a part of the major technique start of slow death. It's known as the technique. Almost all manufacturers have a hook in it. You guys do it extremely well with the option that you made of varying wire thickness within that revolve hook, and it is absolutely lethal.
Yeah, it's a lot of cool to see a similar type of style of fishing be spread across different species and different areas in the world, mostly United States, that are probably doing that. But just to see the different things that you could do with hooks and fish hooks in general is amazing. You have that lighter wire hook, you have laser sharp, you have Trokar. Dude, we couldn't keep the Trokar revolves in stock for a very long time because as soon as we get them, they sold out immediately.
Yep.
And we're talking about people calling up being like, I don't care how many you got, I want them all.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, man, first come, first serve.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. It is an absolutely dynamite hook. And again, one of those things that I think people know the technique, but they don't think about the wire thickness and how much it affects how that bait moves and swims. Heavier wire, you might get more rotation. Lighter wire, you get more lift. There's a time and a place for everything, but it's more that the anglers recognize, hey, I need this, I need that. There's a difference here and there within that hook wire. So that's kind of the big picture there. So, all right, we got like 2 minutes left. I got 2 more questions, right? You can take 5 minutes. I don't care. Number 1, right? What's the most important thing to a hook to you? The shape, the sharpness, the wire thickness? I need you to pick one, and you only get one. So name your favorite thing about a hook. And then the second thing, well, answer that first.
It's got to be the point. It's got to be sharp, right? It's got to be able to do its job. And whether you're fishing Trokar, fishing laser sharp, fishing old school forge point, eagle claws, it's the first thing I look at on a hook is the point.
All right, Chris, what's your favorite thing about a hook? What's important to you?
I'm a big thin wire believer. I think there's a lot of thin wire hooks that can do the job, and people are just afraid to use them. I think, whether they think it's going to bend out of the fish's mouth or whatever the case. I mean, I've caught plenty of fish on thin wire hooks where the hook is bent in the fish's mouth, but guess what? The fish is in my boat. So, thin wire for me.
I like that.
I do like that.
I'm always going to think I can overpower the dullness, right? I think I can wear a hook out, and I feel like I can just give it a little bit more when I set that hook and try to get it done. So, I don't know. I'm a terrible one for that question. All right. Within it, right now, I'm going to try to keep it to hooks because we could have a whole other thing, right? The new jig heads that you have, really, really unbelievable finish, taking the qualities of the sharpness, the wire that we're talking about. You have the best bait holder on a jig head that's ever been known to man. You have the best underspin style jig head probably ever known to man. I think the categories that you have available right now outside of hooks, is revolutionary, but I'm not going to jump into that. Within the hook category, what has you most excited? What's the future? Like, if there's one thing that you're like, this is awesome. It could be an old hook. It can be a new hook. Walk me through something that you're excited about right now with hooks.
We came up with a variation of a bait saver, and it's just a little piece of mono, basically epoxy to the bend of the hook. And it really, what it does is it saves your bait, which also saves your bite. And it was a saltwater concept that was, we talked with a couple captains in the saltwater, and they were like, "You need this." And there's a couple other brands out there that have similar, but that's something new to us.
Yep.
It's the innovation where we're not doing the same stuff as everyone else. It's the innovation to where we can take something existing and make it better. I think it's the nonstop innovation that the company has been around for 100 years and will continue to be around. And just seeing those little things, little adjustments that make differences.
I think that's the big thing, and I love it. I think more and more you're seeing that. You guys are taking concepts, taking it to R&D, making it flawless, and getting it to market pretty dang quick. And I think that's what it takes in today's market to stay up with trends, and not even so much trends, stay on top of needs. Anglers come across techniques, bites, opportunities where they create a need for a specific product. And I feel like Eagle Claw is doing a very good job of developing those products and getting it to the anglers in a very timely manner. So hats off to you guys on that. And again, at 11 million hooks a week, obviously, you're on a very winning concept here, doing well with it. And I tell you what, you sharing that knowledge with us today, we very, very much appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you, Nate. I have to give it up to, our brothers and sisters that I work every day with. They're family members at this point, right? And each person has a job, and without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do today. And it's just fun to be a part of. And again, we go back to thinking this is a job, and it really isn't. This is a chance for us to not only make ourselves better, but also help people. And then we get to make podcasts and do fun stuff as well. So it never stops, and it's always fun. And I'm excited to do it every day. I'm excited to meet people like you, and there's always somebody new to meet, and always something new coming out. So we're always looking forward to it. So again, thank you, Nate. I appreciate everything that you do. And we're excited for the future.
You're very welcome, man. I appreciate you. And again, your enthusiasm, man, is inspiring, and I love it. So thanks for being on today. We appreciate you guys. That is Matt Windholz here representing Eagle Claw right here, based in Denver, Colorado. Again, when you talk about American-made fish hooks, it is right there at Eagle Claw. We love that. And making and producing 11 million fish hooks a week. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you came out of that with a little more education on what a fish hook is, what you should be thinking about when selecting that fish hook. Because again, it all starts with that. We can talk about baits, tactics, and everything inside the fishing community, but I tell you what, at the end of the day, your hook is the most important thing out there. Without the hook, you're not getting it done. So hopefully that helped you out. Again, my name is Nate Zielinski. We got Chris behind us. Again, this is the Sourced Podcast, officially brought to you by Jiffy Ice Fishing. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.